Hi everyone, back to Evermore YouTube channel. It's Chris back with the Rumour Has It video where we're talking about players linked to the football club this coming transfer window. Christmas is nearly here, as you can see by the cards behind me there. I don't know whichever way to point when I do that. But the January sales will also be here, the January transfer window. And Newcastle United have got a wheel and deal by the sound of it because of the dreaded PSR and FFP. Honestly, you think they play on the wings for us. The amount of times people blame them for bad games and bad form. But we're stuck with it. We can't do nothing about it. So Newcastle might need to be a little bit creative in the transfer window, which leads me to this story we're going to talk about today for a player who I'm quite excited about, actually. And if we manage to pull this off, I think it'll be a brilliant move within the realms of PSR and FFP. We're going to get stuck right into this in a minute. If this is the kind of thing you like, smash subscribe, help get us to 9K. We might even be 9K by the time you watch this. And if we are, get us to 10K. I'm going to be greedy. Go on, bring us up to that level. We'd love it. But smash the channel, like, help grow, all that stuff, all the algorithm bits and bobs, and let's get talking about football. So who am I talking about right now? I'm talking about this player, Evan Ferguson. Remember him? He murdered us in a hat-trick when we played him at the Amex, and that was him at his peak and his pomp of his early kind of praise as a player. There was comparisons drawn to Erling Haaland, to Zlatan, to even Alan Shearer, the way he just kind of dismantled us and the way he was performing in games. In terms of a player, Evan Ferguson, what is he? What can he do? You know, he's big and he's strong. He holds the ball up well. He's got good close control. He's got a little bit of speed as well, to be fair to him. You know, he can get in behind and he can finish when he gets in those positions as well. But since that hat-trick, he kind of disappeared a little bit in terms of his form. He had some bad injuries as well, it has to be said. So in the 23-24 season, you know, shortly after what he did for us, I think he scored 6 goals or something like that. And, you know, 3 of them were against us. And then he kind of disappeared a little bit. And he had a really bad ankle injury. So he ended up missing 164 days over 2 injuries, which was a 17 games missed in total. Prior to that, he'd only missed 5 games, you know. So he did have a bit of a bad knock. So that contributed to him obviously disappearing off the radar in terms of a player. So all that kind of hype and praise and everything started to kind of dissipate a little bit. But, you know, he's only 20 years old. People tend to forget this about Evan Ferguson. And, you know, you're looking at Will Asula that we've got on the bench, and, you know, I know people are excited and they want Will Asula to work, right? But, you know, we got him for 15 million from Sheffield United. He didn't score a goal in 20-odd games or whatever it was. Whereas Evan Ferguson has done that, as you can see from Mark's stats analysis there. He's done it in the total kind of appearances that he's had for Brighton. So since 2020 or 2024, 55 appearances, 13 goals and 2 assists. Now that's 1 in 4. So that's not too bad for a 20-year-old striker, to be fair. They're not always going to burst the scene like Wayne Rooney or Michael Owen back in the prime and just start scoring goal after goal after goal. They have to build up to a game. And I really think Evan is kind of at that stage now. He struggled to get into this Brighton team ahead of João Pedro, ahead of, you know, the kind of rejuvenated Danny Welbeck that nobody saw coming. So the story is that Evan might be allowed to go out on loan in January, and that is when Newcastle United come to the fore. Now West Ham are also interested. My God, they're gasping for a centre forward, as are Rangers. So the thing with Evan Ferguson and the thing with his move in January is he's going to be looking to get game time. There's no doubt about that at all. He's got 18 caps and 4 goals for Republic of Ireland, by the way. You know, that's good. You know, goal to game ratio for a young 20-year-old man who's effectively going to be leading the line for Ireland, in their opinion, for years to come. So Evan's at a bit of a crossroads here in terms of what he's going to do in his career. Now, I think he's a great player. I really do. I just think that he's gone off the boil a little bit. Maybe the injuries have kind of slowed his progress. And Brighton have moved on since then. They've got a new manager in place. You know, they've got new players in, and they don't necessarily have the same type of players that were there when Evan broke onto the scene and scored those goals. So maybe Brighton is slightly moving away from a player like him as well. The man just praised him and said he's a great player and, you know, needs to get back to his levels and all that kind of stuff. But to me, this is another PSR thing as well. Now, Brighton were looking for 100 million quid when Evan scored that hat-trick against us and was getting likened to Zlatan and Shearer and Haaland and all these other things. They ain't getting 100 million quid now. You know, you're probably looking, I think, between kind of 40 and 50. You're paying for the potential there on Evan Ferguson. But looking at the stats there, as you can see, so Mark's based his stats, as he does on the Super Duper Stat computer, across all the top 5 leagues for centre forwards. And you can see his goals aren't great because he's 1 in 4. You know, you compare him to someone like Haaland, even someone like Isaac, you know, even Wilson when he's fit. And he's not going to have comparable stats. And his XG is low as well because he's only getting 1 in 4. But his goals to shot ratio isn't too bad. His shots, you know, could be a little bit better. You know, his shots on target are decent as well. His assists are a bit low, you know, but again, He's in and out of the team. I think he's only had 8 appearances this season with 1 goal, 3 shots and 1 on target, so a 33% shot conversion there. Progressive carries, he's not really a ball carrier, but what he is he's something that we don't have. And people talked about the Chris Wood sale and how we haven't replaced Chris Wood. And look how well he's done at Forest. I think Evan is a better version of what Chris Wood was at Newcastle. He can hold the ball up well. He can bring other players into play. So when we have those nasty, scruffy games, look at the one against Palace where Isak gets forced off with a hip injury. I don't think Ferguson gets forced off with an injury in a game like that. I think that's a game that Ferguson can play in. You maybe move Isak over to the left, or you put him on the bench and rest him, and you bring them on later on tired legs and one of them and maybe win the game. So it's better game management. Now, I'll come with Callum Wilson in a minute, but for me, I think at 20 years old, if you get the chance to get this lad on loan, get his fitness back up, get his game back up, I think Eddie could work on him. Eddie could develop him, because that's what Eddie does really well, is develop players. He goes into another pool of exciting players alongside the likes of Louis Miley, Lewis Hall, Tino Livramento. These lads are all in their early 20s, and you've got years and years ahead of them to become the players that they all want to be and we want them to be. But also, and I hate to say it, you get them in at a lower figure, they become great players, you sell them on, you cash in for PSR, which a lot of the big clubs do, Chelsea being the primary, the players that they've sold, De Bruyne, Salah, Lukaku, just to name but 3, so these are the kind of things that you probably have to think about if you're going to be that club in years to come. But yeah, for me, for Evan Ferguson, I think this makes a lot of sense for me. I think it makes a lot of sense for the player as well, because we all know Callum Wilson. Injuries are a problem for Callum. I know he's come back and he said he's been studying ways to stay fit, look at his body and his training and all that kind of stuff. A very handsome fella and a lovely beard, by the way. I've never seen a more immaculately trimmed beard in my life when I saw him on the bench of the day. But anyway, that's by the by. That's Callum's career after football. I think he's going to make a fortune in TikToks and podcasts and modeling and all sorts of shit. But anyway, going back to football, Wilson is a cracking striker when he's fit. He's probably 1 and 2, I think, when he's fit, but he's never fit. There's always a niggle or a knock or a thing here that turns into 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 months, 6 months. And he comes back and then he's back and he's out and he's out and he's out. And we don't need that. Yeah, Evans had a bad injury there in the past, but he's a young lad. He's healing, he's growing. A bit like Louis Miley as well, and that their bodies are developing and growing, and they're going to get stronger and more resilient. With these injuries will make them stronger. So I think for me, this makes perfect sense, and also a balance it in a world of PSR. So, if Callum Wilson's one of the players we're going to move on to get a cash value for, get his wages off the books, get Evan Ferguson in on loan, lower wages, get him on loan. Hopefully he can perform really, really well. They can then put a maybe 50 or 60 million pound offer on the table to Brighton at the end of the season, get him, spread it over amortization over 5 years, and then that way we're playing the PSR game very, very well. And Evan could turn into that big number 9 that we need. And if, I hate to say it, today Isak does move on and we've got a lad who can get 15 to 20 goals a season in the Premier League in the shape of Evan Ferguson, who we've nurtured, we're in a really good position. So for me, I'm all for this transfer. I really hope Newcastle go for this. And if this is the kind of thing Mitchell's going to pull off, then I'm all for it as well, because I think Evan Ferguson can and will be a really good 15 to 20 goal Premier League striker. He's had a setback, and I just think he needs to get back on track. I think Eddie Howe will make him probably a better player than he's already shown at Brighton, because he'll work on more of his in-game play, in terms of when to come, when to go short, when to go long, when to spin out, all that kind of stuff as well. And training with the likes of Isak, is only going to help Evan Ferguson work on his movement and make him a better player too. You get people like Bruno Guimaraes and Sandro Tonali giving him the ball. People like Gordon giving him the ball, even people like Louis Miley, who's good at finding those through passes as well. So for Evan Ferguson, I think this is a good move for him. But I understand if he wants more regular first-team football, going to West Ham, for example, he may be that focal point, that number 9 play week in, week out. West Ham will probably have a new manager by the time you even watch this video, if not very, very soon after that. Rangers I wouldn't go to if I was Ferguson. I really wouldn't. I think he's a Celtic boy anyway, to be honest with you, so I don't think he's going to go there. But I just think it would be a bad move for him, because I just think the SPFL is not going to give him the standard of competition that he wants. He might smash in 25 goals in that league, but come back to Premier League and struggle once again. And, that's not me shitting on the Scottish League. My dad's a Celtic fan. I've watched, the SPL all my life. I've seen great players come from there. Van Dijk, Lawson, Arteta, all these really good players come from up north. But I don't think that's the right move for Ferguson, because although he'll play game time and he'll get goals, I don't think it's going to challenge him really. So if I was him, I'd stay in the Premier League, and I think Newcastle is a great move for him. But let us know in the comments below what you guys think about the links to Evan Ferguson. Would you have him, or do you think he's a little bit overrated and we should be maybe looking for a better player than that? But I think the loan deal works in the boundaries of PSR for me. One thing's for sure, Newcastle should be busy this January. If they need a wheeling deal, they need a wheeling deal. Thanks for watching, everybody. Like and subscribe. Catch you later. See you in the next one.